What's up everybody, it's Shep with Shepstyle Creative, and today we're going to be doing a new video, hopefully the first of many more to come. I'm going to be doing a walkthrough of this Cracked Earth composite with Cameron Jackson. Just want to give him a quick shout out. He's currently a track athlete at the University of Arkansas at Little Rock. You can follow him on Instagram at king.jackson234. Now, just a little disclaimer before we begin, you're probably going to hear some noises in the background. That's just my kids running around, having a good time. They're probably going to be featured in a lot more of my videos coming up. So without further ado, we're going to dive right into this walkthrough. All right. We're beginning here in Lightroom, where you see the results of my photo shoot. Did a lot of photos. What you want to do to make sure that you get the right one, you want to make sure your expressions are right, the poses are right, the lighting is right, and everything is just perfect. And so we end up choosing this image here. Admittedly, I missed focus just a little bit. We'll fix that a little bit later in Photoshop. As I click my Develop tab, you'll see the only two things I really did to this image are adjust my exposure by 0.79 points and my my shadows by plus 38. So for this photo, I used my A7R3 and I shot it at f8.0. Now, the reason why I shot this photo at such a I guess you could say smaller aperture is because I really wanted to get more things in focus. It makes it a little bit easier to do our compositing later. I know a lot of photographers fall in love with the wide open apertures, but in most cases you really don't want to use an aperture that's wide open, because you'll end up with parts of the image that, like back here or up front here, that are out of focus, and we don't want that. We want to make sure that we're able to cut things out a lot better later. And so I used f8.0 for my aperture. For my lighting setup, it's basically a 2 light setup with 1 creative light added at the end. I have an AD400 Pro, that is my main light, coming from the top left here, shooting down because I knew that's where my light source in my composite was going to be. Then I have a second light that is an AD200 in a strip box placed directly up and above behind Cameron to give me a little bit of kicker light. And then the last light is the AD200 Pro here, placed just under his feet, not on a stand or anything special. I just placed it on the ground because I also knew that I was gonna make the spikes glow gold. And so rather than fake all of my light at the end, I wanted to help that light out with an AD200 placed under his feet. So after setting everything up on my camera, I finally got it the way I wanted and did these 2 edits here to the exposure and shadows in Lightroom, and then we shifted things over to Photoshop. All right, so here we are in Photoshop. Here's the photo as it has come over. And as I was saying, I missed focus just a little bit on this, so I'll show you what I did. Here, by smoothing the skin and doing a little bit of sharpening, I was able to fix some of the issues. So this is what it was before and this is what it was after. Just real subtle, not very much at all, but enough to kind of make it be less distracting to the rest of the image. After that, I merged everything to begin more composite work. And then after that, I did some global skin softening. And for this phase, I used a technique called frequency separation that's usually used by beauty photographers and beauty photo editors, along with another technique called dodge and burn to really work on things of the face. But I did kind of a quick version of frequency separation to add a smoothing effect to the overall skin. And there you see the before and after, before and after. So after that, I've got to get rid of everything in the background, all the distracting things. I was at my parents' living room, so we obviously don't want that in the picture. We don't want this light here. And I wanted a smooth gray background to begin building my composite on top of. And so I began the tedious process of selecting Cameron from the background and also removing this flash here from the ground. And you'll see that as I activate this layer here. I didn't worry too much about the paper that was picked up from the spikes there at the bottom. That's going to be covered up by part of the composite much later. Now for this next phase, I turned on a curves adjustment layer to begin shaping my light. Now the picture as it was is just too bright overall. So I wanted to give it a little bit more of a night feel and then bring light in specifically in the places where I wanted it. So by turning on the curves adjustment layer, I have the whole image that's dark now. But now by using my brush tool, I can begin shaping the light where I want it to show up. And so here you have that. Here you have the light showing up where I want it to show up. Now I'm gonna zoom in and show you really quickly here, basically how this is done. You got to imagine my light source coming from the top left, shining down. I wanted to hit all of the places on Cameron's arms and legs and on the ground where the light actually would hit. So I would not paint on the right side of this arm, obviously, because light is not gonna hit that if it's coming from the top left. So by using a brush tool here, I'm able to brush in areas where I want the light to show up. So let's imagine it shows up some here on the shoulder. I would paint in there, and if you can see it's getting brighter and brighter. So this isn't final, but I'm just showing you the technique to show you basically how it works. So I'm gonna undo that to take it off. And then we move on to the next phase, which is actually adding light. So for this layer here, I darken the entire image and then remove the darkness effect. For the next layer, I'm actually going to add light. And here you see adding glow to the same regions. And so now we have more contrast between these lighter areas on his arms and the darker areas from the original image. And just getting a quick look at that, we went from there to here by manipulating the light using a brush over the curves effects. All right, now's where the fun begins. Begin to add the glowing cracked earth effect. Now I have it here in an entire group so you can see what it looks like at the end, but if we break it down, the way this was achieved is I basically downloaded an image of cracked earth, and this is what it looks like. And I isolated the cracks of this picture to where it looks like this. From there, I was able to select just the black portions. And by selecting just the black portions, I could control what I wanted to change the color or where I wanted to add my glow. And so the end result ended up looking like this. So there we have the first parts of my glow coming into play there. And I added a brush. Used the gold brush to add more light around where I knew the spikes would eventually be glowing. Now this was a little too gold for my liking, so what I also did was add a hue saturation layer to target that gold color and pull that down just a little bit to make it look a little more natural. Now, this was my favorite part coming up next. As I activate the glowing shoes layer, you'll see the shoes really pop and come to life. What I did was select the shoes alone and do some brushes and the same hue saturation effects to the shoes to make those really pop. I was really pleased with the way that turned out. But of course, it's not going to be the shoes if this effect is happening in real life. I had to make the glow show up in other places of the image. And this is where I began to colorize the light that was cast from the Godox flash that I had between his legs, and also coming down from the top left. And so right here, you'll see as I activate that, I used a brush to brush on the areas where the light would naturally hit. So that would be inside his right thigh there, right here on his left arm, and some other places. But of course, I wasn't satisfied with that either. I wanted more dramatic effects, so I did some more golden light to the body and overall to the atmosphere. And so now you start to use your imagination some more, and I'm looking at this and it's not quite finished. So if this effect were happening in real life and the earth and the ground were really cracking from the energy coming from his shoes, you'd probably see some dust particles flying, you'd see some other stuff going on. So I wanted to add those elements into the picture for more dramatic effects. So here are the dust particles that are kind of around his feet, and I added a few more to the atmosphere. Now as I turn on this other layer, you'll see how I decided where to put these dust particles. I wanted to add some light rays here to show where the light was coming from. And this is why at the very beginning I knew my flash had to be at the top left, because I knew I was going to add some lighting effect from the top left in this direction. In real life, when dust particles float in the air, you only see them when they get into the light. You don't see them in the dark areas like this. So to add to the realism of this composite, I only painted my dust particles in the areas where light would expose them. So where the light came from the top left down across his body, you see the dust particles showing up, but not in areas where it's not. And so to another object of any photograph, whether it's just a regular picture or a composite, is you want to direct the viewer's eye somewhere. And so in order to accomplish that, I added a custom vignette, if you will, to the bottom left areas and to the top right, to really direct your attention, the viewer's attention to camera and to the effects that were happening here. And then to unify the color and the tones, I added a color lookup layer. One of my favorite color correction tools to use in Photoshop. So there's a color lookup layer, and it was missing one more thing, and that one more thing was the sky. So I turned the sky on. I actually got this image from a stock image website. It originally was not gold. I love this hue saturation layer because I can change it again from the blue color, which it actually looks pretty cool, but I wanted it to be gold like the rest of it. And so this ended up being the finished product, and I was satisfied with the way this looked. It has a real gladiator or Roman kind of feel to it. I love the golden tones that it had, the golden spikes, the golden cracked earth. Everything came together real nicely. So let me go back and show you. Here we have our before and our after. So I hope you enjoyed that walkthrough. I hope you picked up on a couple of techniques. I'm going to be doing some more detailed tutorials rather than walkthroughs in the future, where maybe we can talk about some of the ways that these things were accomplished. In the meantime, be sure to subscribe to me on YouTube. Be sure to click the like button. Be sure to hit the bell icon for notifications on upcoming content. Follow me on Facebook also. I'm going to be doing some lives and making sure my local community is up to date with photo shoots and mini sessions and things like that are going on. If you got any questions, hit me up in the comments. Visit me at www.shepstyle.com for more information. And I'm going to have more exciting content coming up. Until then, stay tuned for more content. Peace.